Hello everybody. So we're in the fourth week here in the UK of the coronavirus lockdown. Life is all kind of weird at the moment, so I've been making a new video to take my mind off it. The last video I made was about the new 2021 Giant TCR, and here is part 2. And when I made my last video I had no idea I was going to make a part 2, so that wasn't called part 1, but there we go. This one is about more from the range. So in the UK, the Giant website, up to the date of making this on 26th of April 2020, there's nothing on the UK website about the new 2021 TCR. So all the information in this video has come from the Japanese Giant website. So let's get into it. Just quickly before we do get into it, you may remember ages ago now I said how much I hated the Giant paint scheme on their Propel, and I created my own paint scheme based around the Golf Racing livery. One of my viewers, Dom, liked it so much he had his Propel sprayed up by Fat Creations in that livery. Well, he's got a new bike, the S-Works Venge, and he asked me to have a look at a new paint scheme for him. And as my inspiration, I've always really liked what Bora do with their bikes. So I took that as inspiration, and I've always really liked the colour of the old Vias Venge. So I thought I'd take those two bikes and see what I could do with it. And I came up with this one. It's a bit over-exaggerated here, but that would be like a deep, dark blue fancy paint. And on the back here would be a matte kind of finish. Darker blue than this, but to actually be able to see it on here I had to exaggerate it a bit. And then just real simple, plain white decals. Put some wings on the forks. I quite like them, but maybe in real life I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I've not heard back from Dom yet, so I've no idea if he likes it or not. Perhaps he hates it so much he can't bear to speak to me anymore. So, back to the job in hand, the Giant TCR 2021. So we've got a bunch of bikes to look at from the range on the Japanese website. At the moment there's 6 disc bikes on the website and 3 rim brake bikes. I think by the time they fully release this bike there's going to be a whole bunch more, but that's all there is to look at the moment. So here is the top of the range, TCR Advanced SL0 disc, SRAM ETAP access. Pricing wise, I've had to take the Japanese price and convert that into British pounds so that I can understand it, because 1,200,000 seemed like quite a lot to me. This particular version has the integrated seat post, and it's 6.6 kilograms, so pretty light for a disc bike. We've got the nice new Cadex wheels, and it's got a power meter on it. Now, Giant are going to a lot of trouble to tell us how they've tried to save weight on this new TCR, and they've shaved a bit off the frame, 1 gram off the fork, so there wasn't much to take off there, a little bit off the cone, whatever that is, the spacer, the top cap, the clamp that holds the integrated seat post top thing on, they've saved a little bit, but one of the biggest savings is in the paint. So 140 grams doesn't seem like a lot, but it's nearly 10%, which means that you're getting 10% less stuff for your money. But obviously in this case that's a good thing. Now apparently Giant bought themselves a Tarmac, an Emonda and a Cervelo R5 to test their new TCR against, and according to their numbers the new TCR is lighter and more aerodynamic than the Tarmac. It's more aerodynamic but a tiny bit heavier than the Emonda, and again is lighter and just slightly more aerodynamic than the R5. Now if we compare that with the old TCR Advanced SL0, and I've lined it up better than I did in the last video I did. But actually if you look around here, even though they look quite well lined up, you can see just how difficult it is to photograph bikes square on. You can see that rotating there around the front mech, but we've got it as close as we can. And as I said in the last video, you can see how they've basically stretched out the new one a bit. Dropped it down a tiny bit at the front, but mostly round here there's not a huge amount of change other than the seat tube is more aerodynamic. It's got a more aerodynamic profile that you can see there. Okay, so moving on, the next bike in the range on the Japanese website is this one, the TCR Advanced SL1 DISC KOM. Now this is the first time I've seen a TCR called a KOM, and I'm not sure whether the UK version will be called the KOM. We'll have to wait and see. But if we compare that to the SL0, we'll see that obviously the big change there is this is Ultegra Di2, and the KOM designation is basically saying it has the compact crankset on it and an 1134 cassette. So King of the Mountain, you've got nice, super easy spinning gears to take you up there. Personally, I think that's a good choice of gearing, and I'd be quite into that, but it depends where you live and how steep the hills are that you tend to climb. My only real problem with this bike, although it has grown on me, is this red-blue fade. I'm not 100% sure about that. I wonder whether I'd prefer it all blue or all red. But maybe more interesting than the dull grey of the expensive one, although I guess if you're shaving all that weight out of the paint, I guess you do end up with grey, right? So weight-wise, this is 6.8 kilograms, so not much in it to its more expensive brother, 200 grams. So that's a good weight. What I didn't mention on the SL0 is I believe that's the new carbon stem that we've got going on there. Very fancy-dancy. Okay, so looking at the range, the next one up is this one. And this is the TCR Advanced PRO 0 disc. Okay, so the obvious change here when we go to the Pro range is that we lose the integrated seat post that we had on the SL0 and the SL1. You can obviously see there that it gets quite bulky with the actual seat clamp there now. So personally I wouldn't buy the integrated one because it's a bit of a pain not being able to adjust your saddle and take your seat post out when you travel and stuff like that. But I can guess you can see how it saves weight and how the pros would be more interested in it. But apart from that, the bike looks very similar. Certainly the front end looks very similar, although we've lost the fancy stem on the cheaper version. Now the other thing up the back here, SL versions have a different seat tube going on. So the Pro version here has got a more cut out, deeper section one, which I actually think I prefer, to be perfectly honest. And you can now see the difference between the KOM version and the normal version. So this is a 5236 with an 1130 on the back, so you can clearly see the difference there. Nice colour, I quite like that blue sparkly colour. Okie dokie, so on to the next one, the TCR Advanced PRO 1 disc. Just shy of 3.5 grand, 7.4 kilograms, and the Pro 0 was 7.2. So only a little bit heavier. Forgot to mention the wheels on the SL1. They've got the SLR1 carbon 42mm wheels, and the Pro 0 has got the SLR1s as well. And so it would seem as the Pro 1. So the difference between the Pro 0 and the Pro 1, of course, is the Pro 0 is Di2 and the Pro 1 is just mechanical. The other thing I forgot to mention was the SL1 comes with a power meter. Likewise, the Pro 0 comes with a power meter. And so does the Pro 1. And you'll see that this is a theme running through this range of bikes. Giant seem to be sticking power meters on all of them, which is pretty good. So what I really like about the Pro 1 is this colour. I think it's rather lovely. And it reminds me of the colour on the Defy Advanced 1 that I've said I liked before. Very lovely. Which got me to thinking that I'd quite like to have the Pro 1, the Defy Advanced 1, chuck in an Anthem Advanced Pro 129er full suspension mountain bike. They don't actually do this colour, I've had to Photoshop that. And that'd be quite a nice set of bikes to have, I think. But of course then on top of that I'd want a gravel bike in the same colour. So we'll go for the Revolt Advanced 0. And then also I'd have to get the cyclocross bike as well. So the TCX SLR1, all in that fancy colour. Of course the only problem with all that is I'd have to get a bigger shed to keep them all in.
I am never satisfied. It's a curse.
So back in the real world, that's the Pro 1, and I rather like that colour. Now pretty much exactly the same as the Pro Team disc, which is almost identical to the Pro 1, other than it's plain grey, and it's got CCC Team written on the forks and on the rear stays. What I think's a bit of a shame is that actually the CCC Team bikes tend to be black, so I'm not really sure why. It's just the plain grey, but there we go. And the other bad news is with the coronavirus locking down all the bike racing, it looks like the CCC Team might actually go out of business, I've heard in the last few days. So fingers crossed that they still exist by the end of this. Although if that does happen, I guess Giant won't have too much work painting over all the CCCs on all of these bikes that they've made, if they've made any yet. So moving on, so this is the last in the disc range and the cheapest of the lot with Shimano 105, and it's called the Advanced 2 Disc SE. I think the SE might be special edition, but I'm not entirely sure. And if we compare that with the Team version, we can see that not much changes, except it's 105 on the drivetrain. And the SE appears to have a different stem, slightly less aggressive. But incredibly, according to the website, even the 105 comes with the giant power meter. Now for under £2,000, if that's right, that is a pretty good buy. But I think I'll wait to see that confirmed if I'm honest. Okay, so there we go. That is all the discs. Next up, the Advanced Pro 1 rim brake version. Again, power meter. And much like its disc brethren, its DNA is remarkably similar. And if we compare that against the team again, you'll see that it's basically the same bike, except with an extra hole here and an extra hole here for the cables to go in, and obviously rim brakes and the SLR with the brake track. I quite like this gloss black colour with the silver giant there. I think that's quite cool, but apart from that, very similar. So then next up, the TCR Advanced 1 KOM in this sort of rather insipid sort of, don't know what colour that is really, I guess sort of duck egg colour, but I'm not 100% about that. And again, this gets the KOM designation, which would make you think that it would have a compact crank on it. However, when we compare that to the SL1 KOM, they clearly forgot to put the right crank on it, because that's a 5236 and that's a 5034. And that looks like a 1128 on the back. That's an 1134. So that's not quite right in the photograph. And then along the same lines we've got the Advanced 2 KOM, which actually does have the correct crankset on it, as you can see there. But the only difference with this one is it's the 105. So what I've just realised is the Pro 1 rim brake version has the power meter, but the Advanced 1 KOM doesn't. And nor does this one, the Advanced 2. So if you were going to go for one of these cheaper rim brake version bikes, would you go for the Advanced 1 or the Advanced 2? Well, there's only 100 grams in them, weight-wise, and to be fair, anybody who's ridden Ultegra and 105 these days, there's not a huge amount of difference between them, really. One might argue that it would be worthwhile buying the cheaper 105 version and then getting yourself a new set of wheels for it, something like this from Wiggle, the Prime 28s, coming in at 1,477 grams, so they're pretty light, and I reckon that would knock that weight down below the Ultegra version, so I think that might be quite a good idea. You might find yourself with a pretty decent race bike coming in at about 7.5 kilos maybe. So just before we wrap this video up, what I did was I just made a note of all the prices at each price point, and then I loaded up the competitors' prices for their equivalent, which then generates this graph for us here. So on the right we've got the budget version, and I'm only looking at the disc versions here. So the budget bikes all have 105 on, and because Cervelo don't really make the R5 with the lower grade group sets on, as far as I can tell, I found their website a bit confusing. I threw in the Canyon models of the Ultimate as well. So in the 105 bracket, personally I think your best buy is the TCR, and it's the special edition version, the disc one with the power meter. Personally I'm not keen on the Tarmac or the Amonda anything lower than this point here, because they both changed the shape of their frames from the sort of more professional version to the sort of consumer versions down here. And I'll look at those in other videos, but the Amonda sort of changes shape and doesn't look as good, and the Tarmac gets a circular seat post, not the Aero one. So personally, in the 105 category, I'd definitely go TCR or the Canyon Ultimate. Then in the basic model, so basically Ultegra, mechanical, I actually felt that the TCR Pro 1 with the power meter kind of comes in a bit expensive, just under £3,500, whereas the Canyon is only £2,200. Doesn't have a power meter, but it's pretty much the same weight, a little bit heavier, but probably your best buy there. And then the next category up, leather seats, i.e. the luxury version of the basic, as it's got Di2 on it. Again here the TCR seems quite pricey, £4,600 compared to the Canyon £3,750. Again, pretty similar weights. Again, the only difference is the TCR has a power meter on it, but just shy of an extra £1,000, that seems a little bit pricey. So the Canyon takes it there. And then we've got the super keen category. So you've got the bells and whistles, Di2, or in the case of the Ultimate, it's actually the SRAM Force group set, because they don't do the Di2 version at this price point for some reason. But the Cervelo R5 is well overpriced against the others here at £6,500, but the giant SL1 KOM with the power meter, 6.8 kilograms, is a lot lighter than the Ultimate, which is 7.4 kilograms. So just a weeny bit more expensive. It has to go to the giant TCR in this category. And then the super loaded category, which is basically top of the range. So you're either an elite racer or you've got a whole heap of money in your bank account that you've got no idea what to do with. And you're going to get the fully loaded version. The Amonda SLR9 is the odd one out here because it doesn't come with the power meter. It's spec'd with the SRAM ETAP Access group set without the power meter, which is a big surprise seeing as the TCR, the Tarmac and the Ultimate do have the power meter. Likewise, no power meter on the R5. So in this category, Canyon's pricing is a lot cheaper than its competition. So the Ultimate there is coming in at 6699, the SL 08900. So you'd have to say that the Ultimate is the best value here, but seeing as you're loaded, you're just going to buy whichever one you like the look of best, aren't you? And look wise at this point, actually for me the Amonda's the best looking bike. So because I'm loaded, I'm going to buy that and buy another power meter for it. So there we go, all good. Okay, so that's it for this video. Do me a favour, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.